In my hometown, we have a tradition of binding the limbs of newborn babies and wrapping them in fluffy coats, leaving only their chubby faces exposed. They look like meticulously crafted plush toys. My uncle's wife had a baby girl, but I never saw her, only a plush toy that I disliked. Later, I threw this plush toy into the river. That day, my uncle came and told me his daughter was missing. I always saw my mother embroidering a small, fluffy blanket, as soft as my cousin's teddy bear. My cousin was my uncle's child, his only child, and my uncle adored her. My father and uncle went to the city together. My uncle brought back a teddy bear for my cousin, the likes of which I had never seen before. My father brought back creamy white rabbit candies for my sister, which I had never tasted. I got nothing. Short for my age, I hugged my father's leg, crying as I looked up and asked him why I didn't get a present. He kicked me away, spat on the ground, and said, "A waste of money." Back then, I didn't know what "a waste of money" meant. I only remember the kick felt like my stomach had split open. Mother found out, but she didn't dare say anything, just silently wiped her tears and cried. Mother said, "Don't be sad, Ming. Mother will prepare a gift for you." Seeing her embroidering the blanket, I thought it was my gift. It was so soft and fluffy, I knew it would be wonderfully warm to sleep under. I asked my mother if it was for me. "Mother, is this gift for Ming? But it seems a little small." The blanket wasn't big, only large enough to cover half of me. Mother smiled and stroked my hair. "It's not for you, Ming. It's a gift for the baby about to be born at your aunt's house." I was a little sad. I had thought it was for me. I asked my mother why she was embroidering a blanket. She said it was a tradition in Willow Village. Newborns were wrapped in blankets to make them look like newborn animal cubs. This way, they could trick the god of death, who wouldn't notice a child in the house and wouldn't take the baby away. The baby could then grow up safely. I told my mother she was lying. I couldn't remember ever being wrapped in such a soft blanket. Mother said I was too little back then. I said I didn't remember my sister being wrapped in a small blanket either. Mother said my sister was only 6 months younger than me, so of course, I wouldn't remember. A few days before my uncle's baby was born, he and my aunt went to the hospital. My cousin was sent to stay at our house. She was holding her teddy bear, and I watched her with envy. I asked if I could have the teddy bear to play with for a few days. She just snorted, turned her head, and climbed into bed to sleep with my mother. Then my father left. I didn't know where he was going. Mother asked if he couldn't go, but he just slapped her and told her not to meddle. My cousin looked shocked, but I could tell my father was in a bad mood. I quickly covered my cousin's mouth and whispered to her, "If you talk, father will hit you too." She nodded repeatedly. After father left, we turned off the lights to sleep. I quietly crept over to my cousin and touched the teddy bear. It was so soft. On the 3rd day of my mother delivering meals to the hospital, she returned with my uncle and aunt. I didn't see a pale little baby, only my aunt holding a teddy bear. A new teddy bear. I guessed it was another gift for my cousin, and I, once again, had nothing. After my mother came back, she said my aunt had given birth to another girl and that my grandmother would scold her terribly for it. She also said she had already given the blanket to my aunt for the newborn sister and would start making a gift for me now. When my mother and I went to my cousin's house, she was hugging her new teddy bear. Her old one had disappeared somewhere, which I felt was a pity for a while. My cousin had been very sad too, crying for days. But she had a new one so quickly. Ming, come and see my little sister, my cousin said with a smile, handing me the teddy bear. This is a doll, not your sister. It felt fluffy to the touch, not like a sister. A sister should be pale, smooth-skinned, and prone to crying. But this sister was fluffy and didn't move at all. So it was a teddy bear. I knew that teddy bears weren't alive, they didn't move. But a sister was alive and would move. My cousin, seeing she couldn't explain, gave up talking to me. My mother said with a smile, "This is the little sister." I shook my head. No, it's just a teddy bear. When my mother and I got home, I was surprised to find my grandmother and uncle there, talking to my father about something. I don't know what I was thinking at that moment, but I suddenly burst into tears. My cousin already had a doll, why couldn't I have one? My uncle strode over, grabbed my ear, and asked, "Did you steal Chi's doll? You're the only one who's been to our house." I shook my head repeatedly. Grandmother slammed her hand on the table and said, "That's enough." Then she looked at me, her eyes darting around, and called me over to say a few words. A few days later, I went to my cousin's house to play again. She showed off her teddy bear to me again. I was angry. Mother hadn't given me a gift. And they had the nerve to say I stole my cousin's doll. A surge of resentment welled up inside me. I thought to myself, if I can't have one, then my cousin can't either. Why, when we were both grandmother's granddaughters, did she get so many toys and new clothes? I could only play with her leftovers and wear her hand-me-downs. While my cousin was back in her room, I suddenly grabbed the teddy bear and rushed outside. I didn't know where to go. I didn't dare take the doll home, my parents would know I had stolen it. I didn't want the doll, I just wanted my father's attention. A stolen doll couldn't bring me happiness, and I didn't need it. I just wanted my cousin to feel what it was like to lose something she loved. So I walked for a long, long time. I don't remember if my cousin chased me. I only remember walking very far and then throwing the teddy bear into the river. As I held the doll on the way, for some reason, I felt it move a few times. But I didn't think much of it, assuming I was just nervous. Then I went home. Before I even reached the village, I saw a crowd of people gathered at my uncle's door. My aunt was poking my cousin's forehead, almost pushing her over with each jab. She scolded her, "Where is your sister? I told you to watch her. Why is she gone?" My cousin didn't say a word, just cried incessantly. Seeing me arrive, my cousin suddenly said, "I don't know. I just went back to the room, and she was gone. Ming took her." It was Ming. It wasn't me. I just threw away a teddy bear I didn't like. Hearing this, my aunt screamed, rushed over, and slapped me across the face. "Stop pretending, you little bitch." My mother had arrived at some point. When she heard me say I had thrown away the teddy bear, her eyes widened. When my uncle heard me say I had thrown away the teddy bear, he grabbed my ear and said, "Aha, I knew you took Chi's doll." But I took the new doll, not the old one. The people around me paused when they heard me talk about new and old. Wasn't there only one? The other one had been lost a while ago. In my peripheral vision, I saw my mother take a long, deep breath. She suddenly shouted, "It was me." I threw it away. The crowd dispersed, and we went back inside. My father slapped my mother hard, telling her to explain herself. My mother, holding her face, said, "Weren't you asking who I was cheating on you with? It was your older brother. He forced himself on me the day you left. I hated him, so I threw his child away." Hearing this, my uncle kicked my mother and shouted, "You bitch, what nonsense are you talking?" But my aunt clearly believed her, grabbing my uncle by the collar and questioning him. "It was a girl anyway, you didn't want her. She wasn't even registered yet. Just pretend the child went missing for no reason. If you dare to call the police, I'll dare to tell them you raped me. I go to jail, you won't get away either." These were the words my mother said to my uncle. My uncle gritted his teeth and said, "You dare." In the end, it was grandmother who came to mediate. She agreed to my mother's demand not to report her for throwing away the baby sister, but she required my mother to divorce my father. My father suddenly became happy and agreed. Later, my mother left. She must have been very happy to finally escape that place. She never contacted me again. Under my mother's wardrobe, I found a hand-sewn doll. It was a rabbit, my favorite animal. My father brought home a woman, and in 2 years, she gave birth to a little brother. Grandmother was overjoyed. I watched as the woman bound my brother's hands and feet with thin cloth, then wrapped him in a fluffy blanket. He looked just like the teddy bear I had thrown away when I was little. I asked the woman what it was. She said it was called wrapping the child. I suddenly remembered that afternoon, how I had held the teddy bear and walked for so long before throwing it into the river. A chill ran through me. Was what I threw away really just a doll? Why did my mother throw away the baby sister? I knew my mother was a good person, she wouldn't do something like that. So what was it that I threw away? I thought of the strange look in my mother's eyes the last time I saw her. I began to have trouble sleeping, waking up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat. I would always see a chubby baby lying in the river, reaching out to me. Sometimes I would see a teddy bear suddenly grow a child's face. When I got older, I realized my father and the woman didn't like me, and neither did my grandmother. I went to a boarding school. Later, when I was accepted into university, my father didn't want me to go. I secretly got a new ID card and ran away on the old green train to the university. The full 25 hours on a hard seat was my shortcut to freedom and my dreams, the only way out of that cage. I didn't dare stay in Willow Village because I would always see the wrapped-up newborns. And I would always see the small river that I thought was so far away as a child, but was actually less than half a mile away. Later, I got a job. My days were busy and fulfilling. But in the dead of night, I would dream countless times of that river, that teddy bear, and my missing little cousin. It was like a hand squeezing my heart. I could never forget, forever tormented by nightmares. So I chose to see a psychologist. The moment I opened the door, I thought I saw my aunt. She looked so much like her. The next second, I saw a birthmark on her neck. She didn't notice my strange reaction and just said, "Hello." But I couldn't speak, because that birthmark was identical to my little cousin's. Her hello was like the low hum of a demon, the call of a devil. Who was she? The moment I saw her, I froze, unable to speak. The next moment, the world spun, and I fainted. The psychologist called her colleagues from the emergency department, and I was taken to the ER. It was just low blood sugar. I also learned that the doctor's name was Xiao Shuya. I didn't dare see her again. I forced myself to forget everything about the teddy bear and my little cousin. I hoped I could leave everything about Willow Village buried deep in my memory. But it was not to be. In September, my father, who hadn't contacted me for a long time, called to tell me my brother was getting married and that I should come home. After university, I had cut off contact with them. They were happy to be rid of a burden. My father had called me several times before, trying to get me to go on blind dates and get married. I knew they wanted the bride price, but I was in another city, and they didn't know where. Since I wouldn't tell them, they couldn't find me, so it was useless. My younger half-sister got married last year, and now my younger brother was getting married. They had managed to get the bride price for him. Originally, I wanted to escape that place completely, but with my own brother getting married, I couldn't not go. So I went back. After the wedding, my cousin Chi handed me a teddy bear. She said, "I know you stole my doll, and you threw it away later. Thank you for what you did back then. This is a token of my gratitude." Thank me? What was she thanking me for? For stealing the teddy bear, or for killing her sister? On the day I left the village after the wedding, I saw my mother. Not the woman my father married later, but my real mother. She looked very happy, her arm linked with her husband's, her face full of smiles. She seemed surprised to see me, but her expression changed when she saw the teddy bear my cousin had given me. "I thought you didn't like this doll. Otherwise, you wouldn't have thrown it in the river." What did she mean? Wasn't it my uncle's daughter I threw in the river? Wasn't it my little cousin? How could it be a teddy bear? Back then I was too young to tell the difference between a wrapped child and a teddy bear, but how could my mother, a grown woman, not know? I stood frozen, staring blankly at my mother. "What?" I asked. My lips opened and closed, but I didn't know what to say. My mother noticed my strange reaction and frowned. "Ming, what's wrong?" I said, "Mom, can we talk?" She probably found it odd, but she agreed. She asked her husband to leave first, then asked what I wanted to talk about. I had so much to say, but I didn't know where to start. Finally, I said, "I'm sorry. If I hadn't thrown the little sister away, you wouldn't have had to say those things and threaten Uncle and get a divorce." My mother was stunned for a moment, then she smiled. "I wanted to divorce your father long ago. He was abusive and cheated on me." "Yes, he cheated. That was why my own little sister was only 6 months younger than me. She wasn't my mother's child at all, but the child of that other woman." But the next moment, my mother asked a question I will never forget for the rest of my life. "When did you throw your little sister away? Wasn't she sent away by your cousin?" "What?" Amid my confusion, my mother revealed a long-buried truth. I had stolen my cousin's teddy bear out of jealousy. My mother found the teddy bear under the wardrobe and noticed it felt heavy. There was a gold bracelet inside. She wanted to return the bracelet and the doll to my uncle's family but happened to overhear something. Grandmother was telling my uncle to drown the new baby sister. They already had one girl, another one would make it difficult to have a son. My mother loved children. Even though this was not her biological daughter, she treated her as her own. She couldn't bear for such a small child to die in a dark pool before ever seeing the brightness of the world, so she planned to send the baby away. My cousin Chi knew about this too. She was old enough to remember things. She told her mother, my aunt, but my aunt, contrary to her usual self, told her to get lost, saying that if the baby sister didn't die, Chi would be the one sent away. Later, my mother and Chi planned to send the baby sister away. That day, At my mother's request, I carried the baby sister out. My mother took Chi and me and walked for a long, long time, giving the baby sister to a family named Xiao. They were well off but had no children. My mother also gave the gold bracelet to the Xiao family. After we returned, my mother gave me the little rabbit doll she had made and told me she was leaving too. Since I now had a doll, I should return the teddy bear to my cousin and apologize. I didn't understand what "mother is leaving too" meant. I didn't know why she had to leave. Was it because I was naughty and stole my cousin's doll? I cried and said I was sorry, that I shouldn't have stolen the doll. I hugged my mother and begged her not to go, because she was the only one in this family who loved me. But my mother was firm. I was wrong to marry your father. Now I want to pursue my own life. Ming, I know I'm being selfish, but I want to have my own life too. Ming, when you're older, leave this place. Run far, far away, and never come back. I didn't understand these words. I only remembered that my mother was leaving because I stole the teddy bear. I held the doll and walked for a long time, then threw it into the river. If the doll was gone, maybe my mother wouldn't leave. But I was wrong. When I returned, I saw the commotion at my uncle's door. Then my mother confessed to taking the baby away and finally divorced my father. I don't know how I felt hearing all this from my mother. Was it relief? Relief that I hadn't killed my little cousin, that I no longer had to live with daily torment and guilt? Or was it resentment? Resentment that my mother had abandoned me, leaving me to live in that dark, cold home? It seemed to be neither. There was only a feeling of a great weight being lifted. Perhaps it was the feeling of, the light boat has passed through 10,000 mountains. I was no longer saddened by the events of Willow Village, only happy that I was not a murderer. But I was still guilty. I had indeed stolen the teddy bear out of selfishness and thrown it into the river. But my cousin, the original owner, had forgiven me more than a decade later. So could that guilt also cease to exist? Could I finally shake off the shackles Willow Village had placed on me and run towards freedom and a future? I suddenly remembered why I recognized the birthmark on Dr. Xiao Shuya's neck. When my cousin Qi tearfully handed the baby sister to the Xiao family, she specifically pointed to the birthmark. She said to me, "Ming, this is what makes our little sister special. You must remember this birthmark, so if you see it in the future, you'll remember it's her." Back in the city where I worked, I met Xiao Shuya again, at the coffee shop below my office. Seeing me, Shuya asked, "Are you Lu Ming?" I nodded, assuming she remembered me because I had fainted. But to my surprise, she called me sister. My eyes widened as I looked at her. She smiled faintly. She told me her adoptive father had died from a serious illness, and her adoptive mother was planning to travel the world. Before leaving, her mother gave her a gold bracelet and told her the truth about her birth. This happened just before my brother's wedding. She had also gotten in touch with our cousin Qi and learned the truth of what happened back then. She asked if I could take her with me the next time I went home. I thought she wanted to go back and have a look. I didn't understand what feelings she could have for that place. But I agreed. My brother's wife was about to give birth, and I was going back for the 100-day banquet. When I returned to the village, I brought Xiuya with me. For some reason, she was carrying a medical kit. She said it was an occupational hazard for doctors. I thought it was understandable. Just like I had my own occupational hazard, after working so long in customer service, I wanted to say "sumimasen" to everyone I met. The day Xiuya met Chi was the first time I saw her cry. She dropped her medical kit and threw her arms around Chi. I felt like an outsider. And I truly was an outsider. But the next second, Chi beckoned to me and said, "You should thank Ming, too." Xiuya laughed through her tears and hugged me as well. She stayed at Chi's house. After all, at my house, the room that was once mine and the baby sister's had already become the room for my nephew, who was less than 6 months old. It seemed that in my family, girls were never as precious as boys. Oh, an interesting thing, my uncle never had another child after the baby sister. Later, he always resented my father for not being able to control his own wife, causing him to lose his daughter. Perhaps you only learn to cherish something after you've lost it. I knew he wasn't regretting not taking good care of the baby sister. It was because he never had a son, so he couldn't raise a son for old age. If he had another girl, he could get another bride price, and his old age would be more comfortable. I also stayed at Chi's house. My father and uncle didn't take much care of grandmother anymore. The grandmother who once held the family's finances, whose words both sons had to obey, somehow had her money swindled by my uncle, and now she was completely neglected. When I went into her room, there was a foul stench. This must be the old person smell I had heard about. I looked at her, her skin stretched taut over her bones like withered wood. I didn't know how to react. Sympathy? No, it seemed like she deserved it. Grandmother could have had a filial and considerate daughter, but in her quest for a son, she had smothered her own daughter to death. When she saw Chi and me, she suddenly opened her eyes, a glint of cunning and greed in them. "Ayo, Ming is here. Come to see this old woman. What gift did you bring for Grandma?" As she spoke, white saliva dribbled from the corner of her mouth, and a foul smell hit me. I couldn't bear it, so I hastily put down the gift box and left. I heard that grandmother had been having nightmares these past few days, constantly cursing my uncle, which angered him so much that he locked her up and didn't give her food. My uncle sometimes had bad dreams too. I often heard him get up in the middle of the night to pace and smoke in the courtyard. Everything changed on the day of my nephew's 100-day banquet. My uncle held the tightly swaddled baby high up and then threw him hard onto the ground. With a thud, the child shattered like glass. And so did this family. It was supposed to be an ordinary day. I woke up early to help prepare for the banquet. I saw my uncle's face was anxious and irritable, so I didn't dare disturb him. Whenever I saw that look, I remembered being beaten as a child. The gene for violence seemed to be passed down through the bloodline of the men in the Liu family, whether it was my father, my uncle, my grandfather whom I had only met a few times, or my brother. Despite his young age, my brother had already learned to drink and fight. I never understood why such a vicious gene was worth passing on. Sometimes I wondered if the jealous and malicious things I did as a child were also influenced by this gene. I didn't know. In any case, I never imagined my uncle would throw my nephew on the ground. Maybe it was a good thing. Xiuya had told me something seemed off about my nephew. He appeared to have Down syndrome. This is a genetic defect with distinct facial features. I had discreetly asked my sister-in-law. She said she had done the screening and knew the baby had problems. But my brother had secretly asked someone and found out it was a boy, so he refused to allow an abortion and forced her to give birth. When she disagreed, he beat her. She had no choice but to have the child. For a child born into such a family, perhaps death was a release. Living would be utter torment. But no matter what, it was a human life. My uncle, in a frenzy, lifted the child. No one could react in time. The baby fell from a height of nearly 2 meters to the ground. Red blood gushed out like a river. Shirya rushed over with her medical kit to perform first aid, but it was useless. He was just a baby less than 6 months old. Every part of him was fragile. Shirya stood frozen, and Chi's expression was indescribably ugly. In the end, she could only pat Shirya's back silently. No one had processed what happened. We only heard my uncle shouting madly, "Haha, you killed my daughter, so I'll kill your grandson." The baby sister? I knew that after my parents' divorce, my uncle had always blamed my father for her death. After all, if he wanted revenge, he couldn't find my mother. But I glanced at Shirya. Wasn't she alive? Just as my father and brother rushed forward to beat my uncle, I saw the woman scream and rush forward too. My father and brother were silent, but the woman's voice was particularly clear. "Are you crazy? Are you crazy? That's your grandson. Lu Tianbao is your son." What? I stood frozen when I heard that. Lu Tianbao was my brother's name, the son of the woman and my father. But now, she was saying Tianbao was my uncle's son? "What nonsense are you spouting, you bitch?" My father suddenly turned and slapped the woman. My brother also stood frozen and cried, "Mom?" But now, the woman only had eyes for her dead grandson. "Lu Tianbao is your child. Little Bao is your own grandson," she cried, pounding on my uncle's chest. My father, furious, tried to pull her away, but my brother stopped him. My brother asked in a low voice, "Mom, what are you saying?" "I'm saying you're your uncle's son. I had an affair with him, do you understand?" the woman said, covering her mouth. My uncle gradually came to his senses, looked at the child on the ground, and seemed to remember something. I knew what it was. After my father and the woman got married, my father went to the city to work to earn money. My aunt had lost her fertility after giving birth to the baby sister. So I often saw my uncle coming in and out of our house, under the guise of taking care of his sister-in-law. At that time, I didn't understand the sordid things they were doing, always being told to go wait outside in the yard. Later, I understood. But I never thought to tell my father. He had cheated on my mother, so it was only fair he experience it too. I just never expected that my brother was actually my uncle's son. That day, the house was in chaos. My aunt insisted on divorcing my uncle. Perhaps his repeated infidelity had finally enraged her. And my brother was kicked by my furious father, his future prospects cut short. His dead nephew became his only bloodline. My sister-in-law also insisted on a divorce. It was too chaotic. Chi, Shirya, and I hastily left Willow Village. After all, we were just some irrelevant girls. A couple of days later, grandmother died suddenly. My father and uncle were too old to have more children, and the only grandchild of their generation, Lu Tianbao, had also lost his ability to procreate. The old woman, who had been so intent on continuing the Lu family line, had seen it end, completely cut off. Perhaps she felt she had failed my grandfather in heaven and passed away. I don't know if my uncle should feel angry or relieved. Relieved that he had an heir, or angry that this heir could no longer have heirs of his own. In any case, the Lu family bloodline seemed to have ended. After all, in their eyes, a married daughter was like spilled water. We were not the esteemed Lu family. Perhaps the end of this violent gene was a misfortune for the Liu family, but it was a contribution to society. On the way back to the city, I saw a pocket watch in Shuya's medical kit. Why would this be in a medical kit? Shuya smiled faintly and said it was for hypnosis. I suddenly thought of my uncle's constant nightmares and his abnormal behavior at the 100-day banquet. As Shuya and Chi exchanged a victorious glance, I understood the truth of that day. They probably never expected things to escalate so dramatically.